Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Another week began and another week of CCP politics. All right, rumors have always been a lifeblood of CCP politics, and now Beijing's rumor mill is roaring back to life. All sorts of insider information are spreading. Who really controls Beijing? When will Xi Jinping step down? Who will take his place? Well, this past Saturday, I did a program about who might take over as China's next leader. I focused on two individuals, Hu Chunhua and then Chen Jining. Since then, a new bombshell has dropped, offering a completely different picture. Yesterday, independent political commentator Mr. Cai Shengkun released explosive new information on X. Let me actually have a picture of him. Where did he go? Mr. Cai, where are you? This is interesting. Okay, where did he go? Here we go. There we go. Okay. He posted 2 days ago. And according to his sources in Beijing, after intense behind-the-scenes power plays, the party elders and Xi Jinping have reached a consensus. At the CCP's upcoming Fourth Plenum, a major leadership shakeup is expected. And Mr. Tsai revealed not only the new leadership lineup, but also Xi Jinping's likely future role. So how should we interpret this stunning revelation? Before we dive into the details, let me quickly introduce Mr. Tsai. While many analysts believe Xi Jinping's grip on power has weakened, Mr. Tsai holds the view that his authority remains largely unchallenged. Even though he trusts his sources, he has been very careful to say he simply passes on the information that he receives and have been avoiding making any conclusions. So he's a good analyst who is careful not to rush to conclusions. And back in February, he made headlines by reporting that three 83-year-old CCP elders, Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao, and Hu Deping, had essentially taken over running the party. I have covered that many times. Now, just 2 days ago, he received fresh intel about leadership changes coming at the Fourth Plenum. This new information is quite different from what he reported back in February. And I think this intel came from a different source. So let me first tell you what he revealed before offering my analysis. So here is the information Mr. Tsai received. Because of China's worsening international situation and a crumbling economy, and most importantly, Xi Jinping's declining health, the party elders have decided they can no longer stand by. They've had enough. That were the original words Mr. Tsai quoted. Xi Jinping's health has made it difficult for him to continue juggling multiple roles as party leader, military leader, and head of state. The elders have collectively pressured Xi Jinping to give up some of his power at the upcoming Fourth Plenum. A new leadership lineup is expected to be announced. According to the leak, okay, let me share with you the page. Here we go. Okay, so according to the leak, Ding Xuexiang, currently the first vice premier and the youngest member of the Politburo Standing Committee, will replace Xi Jinping as the party secretary general. Chen Jining, party secretary of Shanghai, the man I discussed in detail during my Saturday's live stream, it's May 3rd. You can check out that program. So Chen will become the new premier, replacing Li Qiang. Li Qiang, the current premier, will take over as head of the National People's Congress, replacing Zhao Leji. And Zhang Guoqing, another vice premier, will move up in ranks to take Ding Xuexiang's old position as the first vice premier. The new leadership is expected to adopt new policies and return to a collective decision-making mechanism. So what will happen to Xi Jinping? According to Mr. Tsai's sources, she will step down as party general secretary and leave the Politburo Standing Committee. However, he will remain as state president and chairman of the Central Military Commission. In other words, he will pull a Deng Xiaoping move, stepping back from formal leadership while still calling the shots from behind the scenes by holding on to the chairman of the CMC. As for when Xi Jinping might fully exit the political stage, that's expected to happen at the 21st Party Congress in 2 years, depending on his health. So a compromise has reportedly been worked out between Xi Jinping and the party elders. He will be allowed to step down with some dignity and make a clean exit. But the elders have made it clear he must fully leave the political stage by the 21st Party Congress. And in fact, insiders told Mr. Tsai that Xi has already lost almost all control over military affairs. And the senior party elders involved in this effort include Wen Jiabao, former premier, Wang Qishan, former vice president, and Zheng Qinghong, one of the leader of the Jiang Zemin faction, who has retired many years ago from politics. But what about Hu Jintao, right? He was not mentioned. Well, he was. The source said that Hu Jintao is no longer playing a major role due to serious health issues. He's unable to take the lead or even speak effectively at this point. That's part of the leak. Mr. Tsai does caution that while the Fourth Plenum is still a month away and the final leadership lineup could change, the overall direction is unlikely to shift much. I mean, that's not his caution. I mean, he's saying this. This is from his source. He's just telling what his source told him. Okay, so the above is the information that we heard, the leak. So here's my take on this so-called leaked plan, right? First of all, the entire disclosure is self-contradictory. On one hand, it tries to convince us that the party elders have had enough and forced Xi Jinping to relinquish power. But on the other hand, the new leadership lineup is entirely made up of Xi Jinping's loyalists, a puppet team. This makes no sense to me. Far from weakening Xi Jinping, this lineup would actually empower him, elevating him to the status of a paramount leader like Mao or Deng, pulling the strings from behind the curtain. So let's break it down, starting with Ding Xuexiang, the man rumored to be the next party leader. All right, let me go to the slide that has his picture. Ding Xuexiang is currently the first vice premier. If promoted, he would be the weakest party leader in CCP history. He's never governed a province or held any real leadership position or given any leadership responsibility. His job, his career, his entire political career before the 20th Party Congress has been administrative role. And political analyst Du Zhen pointed out that Ding Xuexiang's entire career has been a secretary and office administrator. His appointment as the first vice premier 3 years ago was already seen as highly unqualified. He has no independent political influence, no political base, and no real leadership experience. His only qualification is his loyalty or connection to Xi Jinping. But even that has been shaky lately because there has been so much rumors about him being investigated. But anyways, so in the history of CCP, secretaries have never been given the chance to assume the top leadership role. That just has never happened because the secretaries, people who play administrative roles are seen as they're different. They're not trusted with the real job. So he served as Xi Jinping's secretary for many years, starting back when she was the party secretary of Shanghai. During those 6 months working together in Shanghai, they developed a close bond, and Xi Jinping came to trust him. Um, when the 20th Party Congress Standing Committee was announced, Ding was the youngest of the 7 members. That age advantage immediately marked him as Xi's heir apparent. Back then, I said in my program that Xi Jinping chose Ding as his potential successor or successor precisely because he would be an obedient frontman while Xi Jinping continued to pull the strings from behind the scenes. Real power would stay with Xi. Xi Jinping would not want to choose a successor who is as competent as he is. The two will clash. Xi Jinping would not be able to control that individual. So he would absolutely want somebody who is obedient, and Ding Xuexiang plays that role very well. So the fact that Ding is now, is now going to be the there's another interesting background information about Ding Xuexiang. His background is a little interesting, according to Mr. Tsai. And this is part of the leak. So Ding owed much of his early rise to the powerful Jiang Zemin faction. During Xi Jinping's early rise to the top, he needed to maintain good relations with other factions. And Ding played a crucial role as a bridge between Xi Jinping and Jiang Zemin's camp. Some even said that Ding was Jiang Zemin faction's mole inside Xi's circle, keeping tabs on him. So the fact that Ding is now tapped to be the next leader suggests that the Jiang faction and Xi Jinping have reached a consensus. That's according to the leak. Okay. So let's talk about the other person, Chen Jining as the premier, the other man in the slides. That's also a pick that Xi Jinping fully endorses. Chen has long been seen as a Xi Jinping loyalist, but like Ding, he is a weak leader. When Li Keqiang was the premier, people called him the weakest premier the CCP ever had. Then came Li Qiang, who proved even weaker. He didn't even dare use the premier's dedicated aircraft when traveling abroad. Instead, he flew on a chartered plane. So if Chen Jining becomes premier, he will inherit that title of being the weakest premier ever. That's no reflection on his intelligence. He's likely the smartest of them all. He's a scholar in environmental engineering with a PhD from the United Kingdom, one of the colleges from the UK in London. But the premier's job is to manage the entire government apparatus and revive the struggling economy. With no background in running major economic policies and no background in running the CCP, the entire CCP apparatus, he's simply not suited for that role. He's a professor. He's a scholar. He returned to China. He was one of the, I don't know if he's part of the 1,000 talent plan, but he was a scholar in Europe, but he was recruited back to China. And then the first job he took was to be the president of Tsinghua University. And from there, he rose to become the Minister of Environmental Protection. So even Li Keqiang, Li Keqiang was academically strong. He had a PhD in economics from Beijing University and years of leadership experience in provinces and central government. Even Li Keqiang couldn't do the job under Xi Jinping. Li Keqiang is someone who really had understand where China should go. He really had a plan to help revive China's economy, but his hands were tied. He couldn't do anything under Xi Jinping. So how do we expect a doctor from the UK do the job well or do the job under Xi Jinping? Of course, Chen's Western education will make him a good public face for the CCP in the eyes of the West. But the real power, that stays behind the curtain. So this new lineup, the party secretary and the new premier, is just a facade. Xi Jinping remains firmly in control. So it's hard to believe that a group of party elders, supposedly fed up with Xi Jinping, will come up with a plan that doesn't limit his power at all. In fact, it strengthens it. It looks far more like Xi Jinping's own plan than anything imposed by his opponents. And there's another glaring contradiction. The League claims that Xi Jinping will step back and call the shots from behind the scenes, just like Deng Xiaoping once did. But it also says that Xi Jinping has already lost control, or pretty much lost the control of the military. Now, that's impossible. Deng Xiaoping was able to lead from behind the scenes because he had full, unquestionable control of the PLA. Even after stepping down from top party roles, he remained chairman of the CMC for years. And his two vice chairmen, there were two generals, Yang Shangkun and Liu Huaqing, were die-hard Deng loyalists. No one in the CCP could challenge Deng Xiaoping's authority over the military. That's why he could truly rule from the shadows. And Xi Jinping's situation is completely different. Even this league admitted that he no longer has full control of the military. And look at, he just lost his vice chairman, right? He Weidong, and the other vice chairman doesn't listen to him and doesn't even pay respect to him at the two sessions. Remember, I showed you the video when Xi Jinping was walking off the stage. Zhang Yuxia didn't bother to turn around to pay his respect. So there's a CCP saying, "He who controls the gun controls the regime." So how can Xi Jinping realistically wield power from behind the scenes? And that's the second major flaw in this leaked narrative. Finally, the supposed influence of people like Zheng Qinghong and Wang Qishan. I have a picture of them. So these are the party elders that, according to this leak, that sort of engineered or negotiated with Xi Jinping over this deal. So two of the party elders in this picture, Zheng Qinghong and Wang Qishan, their influence is being grossly overstated. Now, Zheng's power peaked during Jiang Zemin's time, and to some extent during Hu Jintao's time. But Jiang stepped down over 20 years ago and died, and Hu stepped down 13 years ago. So even though Zheng once was very powerful and influential, most of them have either retired or been purged by Xi Jinping over the past decade, because the Jiang faction was Xi Jinping's number one target for many years. The same goes for Wang Qishan. Although he was Xi Jinping's ally during the early years of his rule, Wang's followers and allies were also ruthlessly sidelined or removed by Xi Jinping. Also, Zheng Qinghong and Wang Qishan aren't CCP leaders who have, in my opinion, any real political visions for China at this point. It's highly unlikely that either of them could now mount a serious comeback or influence major leadership decisions. Because the CCP's biggest challenge right now is what to do in the post-Xi Jinping era. It's no longer about their biggest problem right now is nobody wants to inherit the mess that Xi Jinping created. They understand anyone who steps in to say, okay, I'm the next leader, will have to fix everything. I mean, it's impossible to fix. So that's why no one wants this trouble. Unless you're someone with real vision and real passion to bring China back on the right track, you wouldn't want to have this trouble. And neither Zheng Qinghong or Wang Qishan is someone who has that vision or has that passion. for the next stage of China. So my conclusion is that this leaked plan looks very much like something planted by Xi Jinping's own camp. It's an ideal compromise from Xi Jinping's point of view. But what he wants the public to believe that the plan has been endorsed by the party elders. Why? Well, because he wants to cover up the fact that he's losing power. He actually doesn't fear people like Zheng Qinghong or Wang Qishan anymore because they're old and sidelined. His real opponents are the combination of princelings and reformists. So now let's talk about who are Xi Jinping's real rivals. According to Australian-based dissident Professor Yuan Hongbin, there are now 3 major factions inside the CCP working to block Xi Jinping's attempt to cling to power. So the first faction is led by Hu Deping, son of the late reformist leader Hu Yaobang, and one of the 3 party elders rumored to be ruling China right now, one of the 3 83-year-olds. So he's one, and the other man who's leading this faction with him is General Liu Yuan, son of former President Liu Shaoqi. So these 2 are leading this reformist princeling faction. You could call it, this is the reformists faction. This group represents the officials and princelings who genuinely want to bring real change to China, both political and economic reforms. And then the second group is the party preservationists. They're led by Deng Xiaoping's son, Deng Pufang, and Chen Yun's son, Chen Yuan. They are firmly anti-Xi Jinping, but they're not anti-CCP. Their priority is to preserve the Communist Party while removing Xi Jinping and his hardline policies. Their goal? Return to Deng Xiaoping-style reforms. And the last faction is the Maoist hardliners, whose spiritual leader remains Bo Xilai, even though he's currently imprisoned. This group represents the radical left within the party. So of the 3 groups mentioned above, the first 2 groups would form alliance with party elders like Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao. They would support their choices of the next leader. So this is, in my opinion, the most formidable anti-Xi Jinping force and alliance. So that's why I think part of this leak specifically, or the reason why part of this leak specifically mentioned Hu Jintao, right? Remember, it says that Hu Jintao is too old to even talk, and he isn't effective. I think this leak intentionally wants to discredit the claim that what's his name? I forgot. Oh, Hu Chunhua, Hu Jintao's mentee. His Hu Jintao's pick, Hu Jintao's choice of Hu Jintao's choice for Xi Jinping as Xi Jinping's successor. I don't know. I'm all. The man Hu Jintao picked to succeed Xi Jinping is the target behind this leak, right? If you really think about it, yeah, Hu Jintao is probably old and sick and may even be bedridden, but he doesn't have to do anything because he is the highest ranking CCP leader alive. I mean, there only have been 5 CCP leaders, right? The only 2, Hu Jintao is the only living past leader. Xi Jinping is the current one. So he's the highest ranking party elder alive. So that carries a lot of weight. And his influence is there. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to say anything, but he's a figurehead. And his premier, Wen Jiabao, is very healthy. And so Wen Jiabao could act as his proxy, as his spokesperson to do the work. Um, so, so this leak shows that Xi Jinping fears Hu Jintao's influence and his chosen successor, Hu Chunhua. I think this entire leak was designed to counter the widespread rumor that Hu Chunhua will be China's next leader, because that has been going on for a while, and a lot of people are saying that. So now let me talk about the real power struggle. So who will ultimately lead China? Well, that depends entirely on which faction emerges victorious in this power struggle. But I do believe that when the dust settles, the next leader will not be any other placeholder or puppet. It will be someone who is not afraid to end the communist regime itself, and embrace real, genuine political reforms, much like Mikhail Gorbachev did with the Soviet Union. It will be someone with a vision and passion for a better China, and the courage to take the risks necessary to make real change. This person hasn't showed up, or might have already showed up and isn't ready yet. So from this perspective, it's clear Xi Jinping does not truly have a successor to continue the CCP's rule. Even foreign observers are starting to see the writing on the wall. Retired American Air Force General Blaine Holt, I think I'm saying his name right, Blaine Holt, recently wrote in Newsweek that the Chinese Communist Party is facing potential collapse, and Xi Jinping may go down in history as its final ruler. So, yes, the leaked plan puts forward Deng Xuexiang and Chen Jining as the next party secretary and premier. But even if they do officially take these roles, their leadership will likely be short-lived. They will be ousted by someone with a real mandate for change. Right now, rumors are swirling from every faction. Each group is using the rumor mill to its own advantage, including Xi Jinping himself. No matter which rumors you believe, one thing is clear: Xi's power isn't what it used to be. A big shakeup is coming. And just like Mao's chosen successor was pushed out, Hua Guofeng, right? He was pushed out by Deng Xiaoping. Xi Jinping's team may not last very long. He could really be the last CCP ruler, in my opinion. All right, so that's a lot of information. This is a add-on program to my Saturdays talk. But I just thought it's fascinating how the rumor mill. I mean, when you first read the information, it looks so. It looks legitimate and real, but when you really dig into it and start asking questions, it just doesn't make sense to me at all. So that's all. That's all I have. All right. Okay, let me see what people have for me. Okay. All right. All right. Let me see. All right. No questions. I'm just quickly scrolling down. Evolving. Okay, here's a question. Evolving perceptions. I like that name. Lei, I got to see Wen Chen speak. Wen Chen. She was fantastic, although I told her to tell you. Who's Wen Chen? I have no idea who Wen Chen is. Sorry. All right. Okay. Galia. Pro-Russian propaganda is almost choking itself, announcing Xi Jinping's presence on Friday at the Moscow parade. Yeah, I mean, I've seen pro. There are Russians. There are Russians living in China, celebrating the occasion that Xi Jinping will be going to Moscow for the parade. But I think it's what they're saying is that the real Xi Jinping may not be going. It's his body double. because they fear of any strike. Originally, I mean, there was several heads of state who who used various excuses and announced their absence at the event. Modi is not going, and he was sending his defense minister, and then that minister also canceled his trip to Moscow. And there were other two heads of state from Central Asia who used ailment, health, their health as an excuse not to attend the ceremony. So people don't believe that Xi Jinping himself is going. They believe that his body double is going. uh, for fear of in anticipation of Ukrainian drones. Anyways, but thank you for sharing that. David Lopan, Lei doesn't agree with me, but I believe that the CCP will become a junta government after Xi Jinping. I'm not entirely disagreeing with you. Of course, there's a chance, but I think the chance of that is small. It's very small, in my opinion. But it's, all views are welcomed here, because we're nobody knows what will happen exactly. So all views are welcomed here. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's see. I don't see any. Okay. All right, let's see. No questions. I'm just randomly going down. Okay, here's a question forwarded by Chris. Thank you much for the great, insightful analysis. Please comment what will be the implication of Xi's presence in Russia on May 9th parade. Many leaders rejected it. Yeah, I already answered that question. It will be very awkward. I think the biggest concern is safety. That's what I said, or many people believe that he will send a body double. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Norbert Klotz, again, same question. Can she afford to go to Moscow and leave the country? Same question, same answer. All the questions are asking about Putin's military parade. I mean, Xi Jinping will go. Let's put it that way. I do not think he wants to be in Red Square that day. And also, there's another chance. Anytime he leaves the country, something happens. I've seen somebody saying that if you look at the past couple of months, every time he leaves Beijing or leaves the country, something happens. The announcement of Miao Hua's official, the removal of Miao Hua from People's Congress was announced when he was in Southeast Asia, right? So it seems that every time he leaves the country, a bad news took place in Beijing. So from his perspective, he would rather not go. But politically, he had to go. But now he could be using safety as an excuse to not go and send a body double. Who knows? Froggy White, right? Do you think there's a chance to attack on Taiwan could be used to maintain power? I answer that. That's a very complex question. I think the CCP does not want to launch a military attack on Taiwan, although it has every incentive to annex Taiwan for economic reasons, because the regime is seriously in need of a cash infusion. So I think its priority is on a soft takeover from within the island through political infiltration. I did a program on that. Yeah. But a military invasion, I think, is highly unlikely. Question from Jeffrey Hayes. When will the new takeover still want Taiwan? Will the new takeover still want Taiwan? What do you mean the new takeover? You mean the new leadership team, the new lineup? Well, if the new lineup is controlled by Xi Jinping, then it's the same. There's no difference. The question goes back to uh, it's the same question. Does Xi Jinping still want to take over Taiwan? Of course he does. Absolutely. Uh, I gave three reasons. One is economic. The second is um, his entire political legacy, quote unquote political legacy, depends on taking over Taiwan. He justified his third term by using Taiwan, so he's compelled to do that. But then on the other hand, militarily, the PLA is not ready. It's far from being ready. So yeah. So the question, I mean, this new political lineup is still controlled by Xi Jinping if it happens. All right. All right. Let's see. Question from Jerry Rowe. If CCP covers up information, how do you get the information? There's a gap. There's a huge gap between the amount of information available to Chinese speaking population living outside China and non Chinese speakers. So, the amount of information that we have access to um, within the Chinese language uh, community is far more in depth and than the information available to non-native speakers. So my job is to curate the amount of information out there and pick what I think is important and relevant and relay that to you. I always say I don't I use publicly available information that already exist uh, in Chinese language. They just don't exist in English. So you guys don't have access to that. I still think that the best mind, the best China experts are people who were born and raised in China. They have firsthand knowledge and experience of CCP, and they see right through every maneuver. Uh, there are tremendous amounts of information and analysis out there in the Chinese in Chinese language social media and media outlets. So my job is just read through all this information and gather and compile. Sometimes I don't agree with them. Um, uh, like I think, for example, today's analysis, I think I mean, most people just repeat what Mr. Tsai said. And I really just don't think it's, I mean, I think I'm one of the first people who said that this is from Xi Jinping's camp. That's my own analysis. Um, yeah. So sometimes I disagree with them. Mr. Tsai himself, I'm not discrediting Mr. Tsai. I mean, he did a great job by relaying this information to us. And and I'm just saying that sometimes these people are intentionally fed with information from various factions within the CCP. Um, all right, Mike B. Well, thank you. Christopher Napier. Hello from Houston, Texas. You're great. Well, thank you. All right. I think I reached the bottom. I reached the bottom of all right, that's all. All right, that's all. Lei can wear striped shirts. Men with no name. Lei can wear striped shirts and not look fat. I'm trying to stay fit. All right. Okay, that's all for today. I thank you for joining. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye bye.